All right, let's dive into one of the most influential and honestly paradoxical periods in all of history, the Golden Age of Athens.
You've heard the phrase, right? The cradle of Western civilization. It immediately conjures up these incredible images, majestic temples, brilliant philosophers, the very birth of democracy. And look, it's a legacy that has absolutely shaped our world. But here's the thing, this story isn't just about all the good stuff.
And that leads us to the big question for today. How on earth did one city's radical, world-changing ideas lead not just to a golden age, but also to a totally devastating war? We're going to unpack how the very brilliance of Athens, believe it or not, held the seeds of its own destruction. It's an incredible story of innovation, ambition, and, an epic clash of civilizations.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. It all kicks off with this truly revolutionary idea. Think about it. Back in the 5th century BCE, pretty much the whole world was run by kings and emperors. And then you have Athens, deciding to do something completely different. A great, and frankly, a pretty dangerous experiment.
This was democracy in its purest, most direct form. We're not talking about voting for a representative to go make decisions for you. No, we're talking about male citizens showing up in person and voting on the issues themselves. Everything from new laws to deciding whether or not to go to war. This whole radical shift was built on two really key principles. So the first one was something called isagoria. And just try to imagine this for a second. It meant that any eligible citizen, didn't matter if you were rich or poor, could stand up in front of everyone and make their case. Try to persuade the entire city to change course. In a world totally dominated by kings, this was just mind-blowing. It meant the engine of politics wasn't your family name, it was how good your argument was. Then you had the second pillar, isonomy, basically equality before the law. This is a huge deal. It meant that in a courtroom, a super powerful aristocrat and, say, a humble craftsman were supposed to be on totally equal footing. So what Athens had created was a system where your voice and your rights weren't handed to you because of who your dad was. They were yours simply because you were a citizen. And as you can imagine, this new kind of political freedom just unleashed this incredible explosion of cultural and intellectual energy. Seriously, Athens didn't just become another powerful city. It became an ideal. It became, as its great leader Pericles famously put it, a school for all of Greece.
And here's Pericles himself from his famous funeral oration, basically spelling out the Athenian dream. He's saying that advancement isn't about class, it's about ability. It wasn't about who you were born as, it was about what you could do. And that ideal, man, that fueled a dynamic, merit-based society that was truly unlike anything else in the ancient world.
And the result? Well, Athens became this total magnet for talent and new ideas. It was an open society, a place where you could live your life freely, where brilliant minds like Socrates and Plato were literally questioning everything, and where culture and arts were celebrated. It was, without a doubt, the vibrant, bustling heart of the entire Greek world. But you know how this goes. This kind of rapid rise to power, this incredible influence, it doesn't go unnoticed. All of Athens' success started to create a lot of fear, a lot of resentment, especially in its biggest rival, Sparta. And you could just feel it. A collision was becoming inevitable.
The historian Thucydides, who actually lived through this whole thing, he just laid it out plain and simple. He said the war wasn't caused by some small dispute. Nope, the real cause was the growth of Athenian power and the fear that it inspired in Sparta. Athens was just getting too big, too powerful, and Sparta felt like its back was against the wall. They felt they had to push back.
And man, these two powers could not have been more different. You had Athens, a naval empire, funded by tribute from its allies, democratic, open to the world. And then you had Sparta, a rigid, landlocked military machine ruled by a tiny elite, famous for its unstoppable soldiers. It was the classic clash of the elephant versus the whale, a land power against a sea power.
So the war that finally broke out was just this brutal 27-year-long slugfest. It kicked off with Sparta invading by land and Athens hitting back with its powerful navy. Things went back and forth for a decade until a shaky peace was signed. But Athenian ambition got the best of them. They launched this massive, completely overconfident invasion of Sicily, and it was an absolute catastrophe, a total disaster that really sealed their fate and led ultimately to their surrender. And the defeat, it was total. Absolutely crushing. This vibrant, confident city that had called itself the School of Greece was brought to its knees. The Golden Age was snuffed out, just like that.
And the cost? It's hard to even fathom. A devastating plague early in the war wiped out maybe a third of the population crammed inside the city walls. The treasury was completely drained, and an entire generation of young men was just gone, lost in battles, especially in that horrible disaster in Sicily.
The terms of surrender were just humiliating. Blow after blow. The famous long walls that protected the city, torn down. Its navy, the very source of its power, handed over. Its overseas empire, gone. And maybe the most painful part of all, their great democratic experiment was extinguished, replaced by a brutal puppet government backed by Sparta, a group that history remembers as the 30 Tyrants.
So, that's it, right? The empire's gone, the walls are rubble. Story over? Not even close. Because this is the amazing part. While the political and military power of Athens was absolutely destroyed, its real power, the power of its ideas, was actually just getting started.
Yeah, this is really where the story takes its most important turn. Think about it. Empires rise and empires fall. Armies win and the armies are defeated, but a truly powerful idea, that can be unstoppable. The physical city of Athens had been conquered, for sure, but the idea of Athens, well, that was about to go on and conquer the world.
And that legacy is literally all around us today. The very idea of democracy, that we, the citizens, should have a say in how we're governed. The entire philosophical tradition kicked off by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, that's the bedrock of so much of Western thought. The principle that no one is above the law. Hey, even the spirit of the Olympics, these are all Athenian ideas, still alive and kicking.
And that really leaves us with something to chew on, doesn't it? Athens, the physical empire, lasted for less than 100 years. But Athens, the idea, has been shaping the world for 2,500 years. It really makes you wonder, what is true power? Is it walls and ships, or is it something else? And what makes an idea so tough, so resilient, that it can outlive the very civilization that gave birth to it? It's a heck of a thing to think about. Thanks for joining me on this one.